I was asleep and I woke up and there was a series of texts from my son. And the last text said something like, "It's okay, we left. That was completely fucked. We're okay now," or something like that. So then I read all the other texts, and it turned out that he'd been invited to a party being held by a stranger that him and some friends had met on Tinder.
I'm very nervous to find out what happened.
So they go there, all this happened while I was asleep and oblivious. So it's 3 hours outside of New York in some forests. And they turn up, and this man's house is a huge castle, a vast, newly built castle, with towers and a lot of turrets, like a shit ton of turrets.
3 hours away.
Yeah, more turrets than even a ostentatious Gothic castle might have. And they consider turning around, but instead they enter.
We've driven all the way here.
Right, and, what the fuck, and they go into the grand banqueting hall, and there's no party.
Are you Welsh, or were you born in Wales?
Yeah, I was born in Cardiff. My father was the story was that my great-grandfather was on his way from Eastern Europe to New York, like doing the great kind of Jewish journey, with the pogroms, slogging through the snow.
And this would have been when?
Sort of, I guess, pogrom time, like turn of the century, like 1890, something like that. Yeah, and was on his way to New York, walked for thousands of miles. And then by the time he got to Cardiff, he just ran out of money and energy and just stayed.
Which is very far, but not all the way, not even close to all
Definitely not all the way. So then cut to 100 years later that I was born, so nearly an American, but Welsh.
Right.
And then now, years later, I took the final leg of the journey and moved to New York myself.
What was Cardiff like? I've been there. I do my own small label, and I released Kate LeBon's first 2 albums in America.
Oh, right.
And she's Welsh, and so I actually went there a couple times to see her and loved it, but had the cool view for 48 hours or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, on the plus side, I when I go back and I do shows in Cardiff, and the audience are always really great, and I'm like, the homecoming guy.
Right.
And there's beautiful dockland area called Cardiff Bay, which is where my remaining relatives live, and there's beautiful countryside all around. On the downside, it was growing up there. I think I was kind of always a bit of a sort of outsider, a little bit of a square peg in a round hole. And it was kind of rough for someone like me, but sort of a lot of violence and
really?
In the playground and so on. And I lived in the suburbs. It's about 3 miles from my school, just in a kind of regular suburb, a little bit upmarket, a place called Lisvane. And so look, between the sort of deathly suburb and the violent school, not great.
Right. Violent meaning fights.
Fights and bullying. And
not like American modern violence.
No, because there's no guns in Britain, there's a lot more low-level violence.
Yeah, just stabbings.
Yeah, exactly. Because in America, if somebody comes at you, they might get shot. So you've got a lot of high shooting crime and not much anything else, whereas in Britain, it's a shit ton of the other stuff and none of the shooting.
But that is an interesting dynamic, because I would imagine if you were a kid in school now in America, you'd seriously fear for your life in a way, whereas your fear might have been I'm going to get beat up, and that would really suck, and that's real fear.
Yeah.
But it's a different kind of
different kind of fear, but there was probably the odd occasion when I feared for my life a little bit in those years. Talking about the years of maybe 16 to 18. But there was good things. So the best thing about my parents was that they were very permissive. I mean, it sounds like you had a similar situation. That on the downside, they weren't really noticing the bad things that were going on. But on the plus side, they dropped me off at a specials gig at the age of 12 and just let me go in.
By yourself?
By myself, yeah.
Amazing.
And I saw a whole bunch of amazing bands that way.
Wow.
And the specials one So I'm standing there on my own.
12 years old.
12 years old, 1979. The Specials have just put out their first album. Honestly, I can picture it all like it was yesterday. I'm at the front and I had a brainwave. I thought, I will pretend to faint and then the bouncers will lift me over the barrier and I can watch the whole show from the side of the stage. Now, I've seen people in concerts in subsequent years faint, get lifted over the barrier, and they're not allowed to watch the show from the side of the stage. They're chucked
Right, they get like taken down to the side.
Yeah.
And,
But for some reason, my plan worked
12, yeah.
perfectly. Yeah. So a bouncer lifts me over, puts me on the side of the stage, and then Terry Hall came out and said, "Are you okay?"
No way.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I said, "Are you in the Specials?" And he said, "I'm the singer." And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." And they let me stand on the side of the stage the whole show. I had a camera, I was taking photographs of Jerry Dammers for the side of the stage.
That's incredible.
Yeah, years later I told that story on Twitter and Terry Hall saw it and invited me to see them play in New York.
Wow.
Yeah. And then when he died, or even before he died actually, these stories came out that he'd been sexually abused as a kid. Like he would tell these stories about being like kidnapped and sexually abused, like really bad stuff, like taken to France, I think. Anyway, when I heard that, it all kind of clicked into place. It's like he's seeing this 12-year-old kid and he's making,
to give you a good moment.
Yeah, or even just making sure, like for somebody who hadn't been safe,
right,
making sure that this other kid was safe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kind of amazing.
I know, amazing.
Do you still have the pictures?
I think I do, yeah.
Wow.
I think they're in storage upstairs.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, that was amazing. And my grandparents lived in London, so every chance I got, I would get the train to London and like lose myself in London. I'd get on a bus and until the bus driver, not the bus driver, the conductor came over to like ask for my money. And then I'd jump off the bus because the buses didn't have doors. Right. And I'd just like go on these adventures.
Do that all night, all day, yeah. And you were doing this alone? You weren't going with friends?
Yeah, doing it alone. I do remember my mother, I was just a loner kid. I don't remember ever being particularly lonely. I just like enjoyed my own company.
That's interesting. There was a huge difference between those two things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And your parents were fine with just like, I guess you were going to visit your grandparents, so. Yeah.
Well, I do remember one time, my grandparents lived in Portman Square, which is like pretty fancy, right next to Selfridges. And they had this ground floor flat and they were there in this very sort of, 1970s Jewish, I don't know, sort of chintzy way. And I snuck out and got on a bus and did all of that stuff and like was all over London. And then I remember one point thinking to myself, God, I'm going to have to, they're probably worried about me. And so I found my way back and snuck in. And they were like, "Oh, hi," and noticed I'd got.
It's a generational thing that was passed down from them to your parents.
Yeah, well,
maybe,
that's the thing. People say this that like back in those days, it
different
was a lot
time.
more like that.
Right, and you weren't going to text, you weren't expected to go to a payphone and call unless it was a real emergency, right? I mean, that's just like, when I was a kid in the mid-70s in Amherst, Massachusetts, I remember kids you just left and would just be on our bikes, whatever, no helmet, like nothing, you just go.
Yeah.
And when it sort of felt like dinner time, you would come back. And that was it. And no one worried and nothing happened.
Yeah.
And somehow no one even got hurt, really.
It's funny. I did a whole load of reckless things as a child, jumping over big stream, like, with a gully and skateboarding without a helmet down like a really steep.
See how fast you can go.
Yeah. And no serious injuries.
So did you finish school in Wales and then leave after that, or when did you leave?
The second I could. Because I was kind of losing myself in the middle of London, I did love that, and I'd go down to the South Bank, where the National Film Theatre is.
Right.
I'd just like sit there and have coffee, and then. So the minute I got the chance to leave Cardiff, I did and moved to London and enrolled in the Polytechnic of Central London to do a journalism course.
So where was it? Because you're sort of involved in many disciplines. Did music come first? Writing? What was your first kind of creative?
It was journalism, and the second I did that, my life changed. I went from being this kind of awkward, lone kid in Cardiff to being an incredibly popular and liked kid at college. And,
right.
Just on overnight, my life turned around.
Because you were saying things about people, and it was what was it that did it?
I don't know. Maybe I just got more confident. Maybe I just thought maybe Cardiff was just like a sort of millstone around my neck that I unshackled myself from it the day I moved to London and exuded a different aura.
And that is the thing about going away to university or doing whatever. When you're a kid and you move, a lot of people just become somebody new overnight, right?
Yeah.
You can leave everything behind. No one knows who you were.
Yeah, and it was great. It worked fantastically. And I started writing for the college newspaper, and my lecturer, David Cardiff, took me to...
funny.
Yeah. And he took me to a cafe, and he said, "You're the only person," the college paper was called McGowell. He said, "You're the only person who works for McGowell, who writes for McGowell, who's any good at writing."
Wow. What were you writing about at the time?
Funny little columns, and funny observations about college life.
So it was creative. It was journalism, but it wasn't like concert reviews or things. It was.
Yeah, it was kind of big funny. And I ended up writing columns I don't do it anymore, but I ended up writing a column for Time Out for years and The Guardian for years. So, so I started, and it was really David Cardiff telling me that I had an aptitude for it, which sort of set me on my path.
Yeah.
But then my parents, I know this is a family podcast, so, my parents would come and visit.
Okay.
I was squatting.
So you had a good relationship with them still after you left?
Well, my father definitely my father was a very absentee father. On Mondays and Wednesdays, he'd play bridge, and then on Saturdays, he'd play golf, and then on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and whatever, he'd watch TV.
Okay, a real schedule.
Yeah. And none of it really involved, me and my brother. And years later, actually, he apologized. He said, "I know I wasn't a very good father." I mean, he wasn't like a bad father. He just was a sort of
Just wasn't around. What did he do for a living?
He worked for my mother's father in a warehouse in Cardiff, like a wholesale warehouse, like big boxes of cutlery and shit, in a really drab road called Penarth Road.
Right.
And then my grandfather lost all of his money gambling.
Oh, wow.
And so the warehouse closed down. So my dad opened up his own warehouse called the Croft Street Warehouse, and he did that for a few years. And then him and my brother and my mother all opened a hotel in the countryside in mid Wales.
Oh, that's amazing.
West Wales, or sort of South Wales, actually, called the Nantvi.
Does it still exist?
Yeah, they sold it a few years ago, but it won the Welsh Hotel of the Year competition. Really? Oh my God, I've got a story. Yeah. So it won the Welsh Hotel of the Year competition, and my mother phoned me up. I think this story, more than anything, sums up my family. I'm so glad I thought to tell it. My mother phoned and said, "We've won the Welsh Hotel of the Year competition, and to celebrate, I'm going to get a family portrait commissioned of all of us. Send in a photograph of yourself." And
you're not going to stand and pose for it.
No, the artist worked from photographs. Right. And I said, "Okay." So I sent it. She said, "He's a brilliant but troubled local artist." I remember I was told the story to Ira Glass one time, and he said, "How come it's okay to call an artist brilliant but troubled? You would never say he's a brilliant but troubled plumber."
You'd say neither, probably.
Yeah. So then my mother phoned back and said that they'd changed the concept of the portrait. And because it was a hotel, we would be serving drinks to 3 celebrities of our choice. So each Ronson would be serving a drink to 3 celebrities. Okay. So I said...
so you were asked which 3?
Yeah. Okay. So I said the Beverly Sisters as like a kind of ironic silent protest, because they all looked exactly the same. I thought this is my way of undermining the concept.
Okay.
And my mother said, you can't choose the Beverly Sisters. So I said, I ended up with, then I said, I can Tina Turner and Boris Yeltsin.
They're all together at a table.
Yeah. This was again me trying to subtly undermine the project. I said to my mother, who are you choosing? She said, Gandhi.
Does he drink?
Kennedy. Serving drinks to Gandhi. I said, who's Dad choosing? And she said, Gary Player, Sev Ballesteros, and another golfer.
That was a wild bar or hotel.
It was actually outside. Anyway, then the concept changed again. And she said, now we're not going to be serving drinks to the celebrities, we're just going to be chatting to the celebrities. So my mother's going to be like chatting to Kennedy. Like my mother's talking and Kennedy's listening. And I chose Randy Newman in the end because he really is.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Right? Yeah.
Do you remember who your brother chose?
I think Woody Allen. In the end, it's moot. And I'll tell you why. Because the artist shows up like for months, getting these progress reports like, it's not ready yet. He says it'll be ready soon.
He's troubled.
Yeah. So then the day of the grand unveiling, I wasn't there for it, unfortunately, so this is a second-hand story. So he turns up at the hotel and the painting's wrapped in like brown paper.
Right.
And he says, I want you to know I'm going through an artistic phase that some people don't connect to. And my mother said, just open it. So he opens it. And all the celebrities have been painted with tender care and accuracy, including a whole bunch of celebrities nobody asked for.
Like Tina Turner.
Like Clint Eastwood and the Ronsons, among them, stood as human grotesqueries. Like my brother was like this like grotesque, deformed.
Like deliberately, not like I didn't do a good job, but like.
Well, the only Ronson who actually looked like me was me. Like I actually looked like me. But, so I don't know because my mother apparently took one look at it and just walked out of the room. And my father said, we're not paying for it. And then they reached a compromise where, and the compromise was that the Ronsons would be painted out. So my brother became Jennifer Saunders or something.
Just add 4 more celebrities.
Yeah, and I'm still in it. I'm the only Ronson who
So you've actually seen the photo, though, eventually.
So I never saw the version with my family as grotesqueries, but I did see the final version. And I did a story about this on This American Life years ago, 20 years ago or something. And for a while, people like pilgrims would come to the hotel to look at the cast.
Wow, the family business, you were kicking it in,
Yeah. And for a while, my brother had because I wrote a version, I did it for The Guardian, I did it for This American Life, and he printed out the Guardian story and left it in everybody's rooms.
Kind of great, wow.
Yeah.
What a weird sort of cool family document, though, in a way.
I know,
right? In a very bizarre way, in a troubled but brilliant way.
Although I don't know where it is now, actually.
It's not still at the hotel.
My parents sold the hotel, and my father died, and my mother's now in a care home, and I don't actually know where it is. I think my brother probably knows.
Yeah. Do you go back to Wales ever or often?
Yeah, I go. Well, every time I do a tour, I go back to Wales. But also, most times when I'm in London, my mum's in a care home in Cardiff, so I'll try and make the effort to go back and visit her and see my brother, and he's still there, and so just like an overnight trip.
And so London, what happened next? Did you start playing music? Did you get more into writing?
Well, what happened was after a couple of years as doing this journalism course, I started writing. I sent some stuff off to Smash Hits magazine, and it got published.
Oh, amazing.
So at the age of 18, 19, I had, film reviews in Smash Hits.
Yeah.
The person who commissioned me at Smash Hits was Chris Heath, who ended up being a great writer. He wrote this biography of Robbie Williams called Feel, which I know people would be surprised to hear me say this. I think it's one of the great non-fiction books. It's
wow.
It's like Proust. It's like he's embedded with Robbie Williams during his heyday.
Wow.
And there's these long passages just about the complexities of getting Robbie Williams from one end of a hotel lobby to the other. And it's a brilliant, brilliant book.
Wow, it sounds great.
Yeah, so he gave me my first break, Chris Heath. And at the same time, I started, I became the social secretary, like the entertainments officer for the college. I was Central London Polytechnic, and Ricky Gervais was my counterpart at just down the road at University of London.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I started putting on these bands and these comedy. My big hit was this comedy show I put on called Frank's Wild Tuesdays every Tuesday night. And like all the comics who are now like Britain's biggest comedians, like all did it. Yeah. But I also put on bands. So I put on Frank Sidebottom, who wore a big fake head, he never took off. And another band called the Man From Delmonte, and they both asked me to work with them. So I quit college and moved to Manchester and became the Man From Delmonte's manager and Frank Sidebottom's keyboard player.
Interesting. And so you played keyboards, I assume.
Well,
you started playing keyboards.
Well, the story is, what happened was, I'm sitting in the office. This is just before I became the social secretary, and I'm sitting in the office. And there's this phone call, and there's this like panicked voice saying, Frank Sidebottom's supposed to be playing tonight, but our keyboard player's taken ill and we're not going to be able to make it unless you know any keyboard players. So I said...
This is the dream.
You're right. I said, I play keyboards. And he said, well, you're in. I said, but I don't know any of your songs. And he said, can you play C, F, and G? And I said, yeah.
If I put some pieces of tape on them.
They do happen to be the only three chords you had to play. And he said, well, you're in. So turn up at the Cricketers at 9:00, and Frank's real name is Chris. So I turned up at the Cricketers pub in like East. Where is it, Cricketers? I can't remember. Anyway, and I see this shape in the shadows, and this like huge head like turns to stare at me, and I said, "Hi, Chris, I'm John." And it's like silence, just this
doesn't speak.
No, yeah. And I said, "Hi, Chris, I'm John," and then I said, "Hi, Frank," and he went, "Hello." When he's under the head, he only goes by Frank. So I ended up moving to Manchester to be in his band. Yeah.
Well, and that became, did you do that for a while?
Yeah, like I was in the music business, if you want to call it that, for about 6 or 7 years.
Oh, that's a long time.
Yeah, both the Man From Delmonte and Frank, in certain parts of the country, could pull a proper crowd, like 2,000 people.
Oh, wow.
2,000 people. So it was like a living.
Yeah.
The Man From Delmonte just reformed for the first time in 35 years.
Amazing.
They're a great band, and I always think they would have had a better career if they'd been managed by someone who wasn't me, because I clearly didn't have an aptitude for management. Right. So I did that for several years, and it was right around when Manchester hit. So I ended up going to I was at Spike Island for the Stone Roses gig, and I was good friends with Matt Squire, who was John Squire's brother from the Stone Roses. So me and Matt would go to like all the big sort of, like the gigs that became the sort of legendary gigs.
Yeah, incredible.
And all that
right place at the right time many times.
Yeah, that really was.
And where does your current family fit into this? You mentioned a son.
Yeah, I got a wife and son. So when I left Manchester, when the music industry fizzled out for me, and I got offered a job as a columnist on Time Out magazine, so I moved back down to London. Because by then I was like writing bits and pieces for The Guardian and stuff. And it was a prestigious, back then a column in Time Out was, I took over, Hunter S. Thompson had done it. And just before me was Victor Lewis Smith, who you probably won't remember, but he was a really sort of big figure for a while in sort of British comedic writing.
Right.
And I started writing this weekly column, and that's kind of what, and my wife was working at Time Out as features editor, so we dated, and that's how we met, and so on. And then we had a son, and then, 2012, I don't know, we were living in Highgate. My son was going to a school down the road, and we didn't really like Highgate much. It was a bit kind of cut off, we felt. Also, Highgate feels quite old, and we were still pretty young, and we thought, well, every time we are unhappy somewhere, we just moved to a different part of North London. So why don't we try New York? And
Right, just move a little further.
yes, and it was really on a whim.
Wow, in 2012.
2012, yeah.
And you're still mostly based here, New York or upstate?
Yeah, I live upstate most of the time. I go back to London whenever I can and love it and see old friends. I'm going back in a couple of weeks. There's never more than a month, maybe 2 months when I'm not there. So I think I'd go nuts if I was here all the time.
Yeah, it's fun to move around. I mean, it's like a luxury in the world.
Well, you have the same joyful thing.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Love going to London.
Yeah, I do love London. Okay, so I'll tell you something that happened 2 years ago.
Sure.
I was asleep and I woke up and there was a series of texts from my son. And the last text said something like, "It's okay, we left. That was completely fucked. We're okay now," or something like that. So then I read all the other texts, and it turned out that he'd been invited to a party being held by a stranger that him and some friends had met on Tinder.
I'm very nervous to find out what happened.
So they go there, all this happened while I was asleep and oblivious. So it's 3 hours outside of New York in some forests. And they turn up, and this man's house is a huge castle, a vast, newly built castle, with towers and a lot of turrets, like a shit ton of turrets.
3 hours away.
Yeah, more turrets than even a ostentatious Gothic castle might have. Okay. And they consider turning around, but instead they enter.
We've driven all the way here.
Right, and, what the fuck, And they go into the grand banqueting hall, and there's no party. They've been lured there for another reason. So the castle owner comes out, and they said, there's like 8 kids there, like mid-20s. And he says, they said, "Where's the party?" And he said, "No, I've invited you here for a different reason. I would like you to take part in my reality show. It's called 101 Princesses. Go downstairs to my basement costume room, put on some princess outfits, and come back upstairs." So they went downstairs.
What? Third bad move is going downstairs. Yeah.
This is part of the story that makes me feel like most melancholy, because they were so eager to please and eager for opportunities.
I'm sure it'll be fine, yeah.
Yeah. So the 2 women put on princess costumes. Joel and his male friend put on tuxedos. They go back upstairs. A videographer appears and starts filming this reality show, but it becomes pretty clear pretty quickly this isn't a real reality show. So anyway, they leave, they get kicked out.
They're able to leave. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, actually he kicks them out because they're refusing to participate in his reality show. But then when I heard this story, being the journalist I am, I went to the castle and I met the castle owner.
Did you just knock on the door?
No, I messaged him. And my next book, which is called The Castle, which is about to come out, this is how it begins. And the whole book unfurls from that experience, that thing. Yeah.
What is family to you?
I've been married to my wife for like a long time, like forever. But it's perfectly nice. Like we live up in a very quiet life upstate. She was always more wayward than me. She'd want to go out partying and stuff. So there was probably a bit of friction because I was always quiet. I have these crazy adventures, but I don't like going to clubs or, that kind of stuff. So I would have these crazy adventures, but then want to stay in and watch TV. And she wanted to go out and have crazy adventures, was going out all night. Right. So for a little while, I guess, that wasn't totally symbiotic. But now we're older, she's kind of come away, she's come to my way of life. And
not many parties upstate, probably.
No, exactly. Although actually more than you'd think. Because,
really?
Yeah, because upstate's full of people who moved from the city in the pandemic and now want to, now getting itchy and having parties in their barns. So there's actually parties all the time. Right. And I prefer parties in barns to parties in Upper West Side apartments.
Right, with $30 cocktails or bars or whatever, yeah.
And also, you're stuck, no one has balconies, you're stuck indoors, whereas in a barn, if you want to go out and get some fresh air, you just leave the barn. So now we just watch TV, we watch The Pit. my dream would be, because my perfect world is watching 2 pits a night, and they make 15 a year, which everybody says is like unbelievable that they can make as many. But I think if they can make 15 a year, they should be able to make like, what's 365
like 100
times 2?
or 700.
730. My dream would be if the pit somehow found a way
Right.
to make 730 episodes.
That's
a
what
year.
AI is for, right?
Yeah,
it's coming.
I'm floating it in. So yeah, we have a sort of quiet life in the countryside, middle of nowhere. It's really silent. Loads of wildlife, there's like groundhogs and stuff, and I really love that. And then when I go a bit nuts, I'll either come back here to the city or I'll go to London, and it's a really good balance. And my wife's very happy with that setup. She's very sociable upstate, and my son lives around here in Brooklyn, and is having like a great life of hustling around town and DJing and scoring. He scores people's films. And
Oh, great! Wow,
scores my podcasts and does it beautifully.
that's great.
And yeah, that's it.